For whoever are watching this, welcome. This is actually a special track of the presentations we put together by Xi'an Jiaotong Liverpool University, short for XJTLU. We are working in one university as colleagues, and join me today. The first presentation that will be delivered by Professor Stuart Perrin. He is Associate Principal of our Taicang campus, which is a brand new development at XJTLU, and we call it Integrative Education. So in his first presentation, I believe he will introduce to us what this education model all about in the higher education practice in China. And specifically, my understanding is he will discuss how the higher education is reaching out across industries, trying to deliver a new way of learning to undergraduate students. That's correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so over to you, Stuart, and look forward to this presentation.
Okay, so before I make some attempts to share screen, as Sarah said, what I'm aiming to try and do is to give some context to the number of talks that will be followed both today and also tomorrow from Xinbi, Nali and Roland. And then we have additional talks which will be taking place tomorrow. So giving a bit of context, a bit of background as well as to why we're doing what we're doing, and also hopefully some questions from yourselves about how successful we are, or we hope we will be. So I realise we've got about 25 minutes, 30 minutes or so. I will try and speak for about 20 minutes so that there's 5 minutes for questions. Let me just try and share screen for us and take us through a presentation. I should apologise for my colleagues, as I'm sure they've seen some of the slides, which we will see here at the moment. And I also should also apologise that I often move around a lot when I'm working on digital media, and so hopefully that won't be too distracting. Anyway, moving on. So basically the title of my talk is Integrative Education, the Bedrock of XJTLU and the University's Response to Industry 4.0. And I think before we go into that, I think we need to give a little bit of background as to who we are and why we're doing what we're doing. So Xi'an Jiaotong Liverpool University is a newish university. We celebrated our 15-year anniversary just under a month ago. We started in 2006 in China with 164 students. And now we have around about 18,500 students. So you can see phenomenal growth over 15 years. And in fact, I was at a meeting today where we were discussing about what we may do should we get to capacity and when that will happen on the campus. So you can see that the university has developed very, very quickly. We're a joint venture university within China, but we're different to many other joint venture universities in that we are independent of both of our founding partners. And the confusion, of course, for many is that we're not in Xi'an and we're not in Liverpool, but we're in the beautiful city of Suzhou. We're a comprehensive university with both undergraduate, postgraduate talk programs, as well as a range of master's degree programs. Okay, so really, what is the point of the university? One of the great things of the university is that we're very, very innovative in what we do. And one of the things we're always trying to do is push the boundaries and the borders of education to try and challenge established thinking. And looking particularly at how disruptive technologies such as AI, etc., have helped push this. Here you can see on this slide, and I have borrowed this from our executive president, a movement through time from different types of knowledge economies to where we are now. And here you can see that we're looking at an innovative economy based a lot by technology. And so this is part of the underlying philosophy of what we're trying to think about as an institution. And hopefully I will take you through that. So integrative education is part of what's known as XJTLU 2.0, but for us to understand 2.0, of course, we need to see where that comes from. And so therefore, think about the fact that there's also XJTLU 1.0. 1.0 should not be too unfamiliar to people. It's much more of what you would expect in a university, a traditional university, but within the Chinese context, there are a number of things which are quite unique still. One of those is that as a university, right from the beginning, right from the genesis of what we've done, we've tried to borrow from good practice globally, internationally. We call ourselves an international university, but this doesn't mean a lot of international students. It means that we're trying to look at good international practice and bring that into the university as we created from the beginning. And so some of the things that we've looked at is in terms of the development of the actual model, creating more of a network structure, a flat structure. We have a concept of an open campus. We look at our students in terms of taking them from a journey from being children leaving school to young adults and make them move through that journey. And as we've developed, and certainly through one of our organisations, I lead Institute for Leadership in Education and Advanced Development, of which I think all of us have at one point or another, if not still now, been part of. We've been looking at the impact of education within China and beyond. So really what we look at is trying to be at the boundaries and the borders of pushing educational innovation. So 1.0 is about trying to do that within the confines of a traditional university. This doesn't mean to say that 2.0 or any other 0.0s is better or worse. It's just that there's different models which are actually taking place. Now, there are a lot of questions about what the future university will look like. And many of these questions have come about because of disruptive technologies. Many of these questions have also come about because the last year or so in terms of the pandemic and what that has actually meant for education, things that have been forced upon us. And we question, in fact, I question considerably that what the pandemic has actually done is just put things forward much quicker than they would actually happen. So Roland and Na, for example, work in the Centre for Educational Technology, and they will be talking about some of the things that we've done in terms of technology, and we're doing them now. Possibly without the pandemic, we'd have been doing them in 2 or 3 years' time, but we would definitely have been doing those things. And so part of what we're trying to do is discuss, tackle, get to grips with concepts of the future university. Earlier today, I was in a conference, another online conference with the Universities Innovation Network. And here again, we were talking about what will the future university look like. And part of what we did was have a blank piece of paper together and sit down and try and design the future university. And of course, in this slide, you can see question marks in the middle because it's almost impossible to do. There will definitely be delayering of the traditional. There will be subdivision of disciplines, but delayering of that. There will be diversity and there will be distribution, and that distribution could be away from the physical campus. So this is all part of the philosophy of what we've been trying to think about and what we've been trying to engage with as the university has developed. And now we're in a situation where, as a result of this, the executive president of the university has created a concept of what we call integrative education. And this is the living embodiment of our next stage, which is in effect basically interest-oriented lifelong learning, built around innovation and entrepreneurial education with concepts of technology and AI very much within them. And here we're looking at some of the things that how the employment, how the workplace, how the future will look like as a result of changes in technology. I've mentioned changes in technology a number of times because this is something that we really need to get to grips with. The pace of change over the last 5, 10, 15 years has been phenomenal. It's been unprecedented. And what this means in terms of education is probably in reality that what the students learn as they go into year 1 may in many cases be out of date as they exit at the end of year 3 or 4, 3 for British system, 4 for the majority of other systems. So we need to rethink about what is it that we're working with the students, what is it that we're teaching the students, and what are the skills that university can use, can anticipate, can activate as it trains our students as they go through their educational life and life cycle. And integrative education is our answer. So there's an innovative educational model which we believe is the way forward. So I've sort of indicated how we got to here, but here we're trying to give a little bit more about that part of the journey and bringing together Industry 4.0, the disruptive technologies, the digitalization, the networking, the revolution around AI, and that revolution is going to continue to things such as quantum computing as well as we go forward. And some of the leading economies are starting to look at that, the impacts that that has on economic transformation, and therefore how education needs to innovate for it to stay relevant within this trend and within this development. So XJTLU has come up and is actually developing a new campus, and the new campus, which is designed to be, amongst other things, our answer to some of the ways in which we want to try and address this challenge. So Synergy of Education, XJTLU 2.0, it comes together in this new campus. The vision of this campus is to become a cradle of elites for new industries and a model of universities for the future. And you can see here, there are 4 different elements to the mission. I like to draw your attention to the 4th element, first of all, which is our answer to seeking a solution for the university and for the campus of the future. Now, I've talked about having a blank piece of paper, but here you can see that part of our answer is still a physical campus. But how does that physicality become a practical reality? What will its role be? Part of the way that we're looking at things is about relationships, and these are relationships which are around, about, and with industry, and with government, and with education. So how do we bring everything together in terms of leading in terms of the growth of new education and the growth of new industries in a unique and interesting way? Some of the key things, therefore, that we're looking at are highlighted here, looking at redefining the educational ecosystem, looking at concepts of an entrepreneurial education, and also looking at what we consider to be synergy of education degrees. And I will try and go through each of those little elements in turn as we're working on and as we develop the campus and as I develop through the slides and the PPT. So, first of all, the future campus again. So taking what we've already talked about and expanding that a little bit more. In terms of the actual educational ecosystem, I think one of the key features of the campus and what we're trying to do is partnership. And it's about partnership between different elements of society, partnership between industry and through government, but also partnership, for example, within the institution. So partnership between online learning and offline learning. And Shin B will be talking, for example, about the learning mall. And here and where we have partnership taking place here, both a virtual partnership and also a physical partnership. It's also about enriching the student learning experience by bringing in the student to be an integral part of what we're doing. Many institutions talk about student-led learning and teaching and the student as a partner, but here we're really trying to make that a reality rather than just some words that we were actually talking about. And then this also comes back into areas and concepts of research, particularly in terms of outreach and collaboration with industry. So industry-oriented research in effect, rather than some of the more traditional academic research that takes place. That's not to say that there's not a place for that, and of course there is, but we see that more in our other campus where we are still practicing what we consider to be XJTLU 1.0, but here within the new campus, looking at research being much more focused towards industry needs in research that will help in terms of employment of our students, for example. So how did we do that? One of the things that we've actually done is go and talk to industry. So we not only did we speak to industry, but where the campus is based, it's in an area called Taisang. It's part of Suzhou. It's near about 60 kilometers from the SIP campus, our main campus. We went there and we talked to the different industries. We talked about what their needs are. We talked about the sorts of things that they required, but also what we talk to is government as well. So what is it that the government is investing in? What is it that the government thinks is the need? Looking all of these different things and putting them together, we came up with these different areas that we have here. So areas around AI and data utilization, biomedicine. Suzhou government itself is particularly developing around areas of biomedicine and pharmacy, and we've just launched as part another element of 2.0 and also 3.0, a new Academy of Pharmacy, around industry manufacturing, chips, and particularly around advanced materials as well. And you can see these are all many of the elements that are the driving forces of economic development as we're developing into the next 30, 40 years or so. So we've looked at what industry needs. But not only have we looked at what industry needs, we've looked at then involving industry into the development of the actual program. I'm aware that as I talk that I haven't actually given you an indication of what the campus looks like. And so here we have an artist's view. I would show you the whole picture, but it's a construction site at the moment. We will be moving in September 2022. But here you can have an idea of how big the actual campus is. As a Laowai, as a foreigner who is working within China, I feel very much at home here in terms of the entrepreneurial spirit, very much at home in terms of the way of thinking. But there are some times when I feel like a foreigner, and when I was told the size of this campus, that was one of those times. I was told that it would be 500 mu. Of course, I have no idea what a mu is. So extremely large, basically, I think is the best way of looking at that. But it's a modern campus and it's designed with and by industry as well as by local government. So here, I think this slide starts to give a little bit more idea about some of the key things which we've been working on and developing. I said, and I think I've repeated a couple of times, that the campus is helped and designed by industry, but what does that actually mean? So not only did we go to talk to government about the actual individual industries, we then looked at some of the companies within those industries and we asked them to help us design our degree programs. So there's no point you telling us what is it that the students don't have and what you think will be your requirements in the future. Don't just tell us, come and help us develop those. So industry has been a key part of the development of the actual degree programs. They've had input into the way and subject matter within those degree programs as well. And not only have we had that, they've been then helping us put the practical programs together, and industry are also involved and will be involved in the delivery of some of the programs as well. Not just in the traditional ways in terms of going into an internship example, but coming into the classroom and working in partnership with education in terms of ensuring that learning and teaching is effective and providing different types of teaching spaces as well. The actual degree programs have a number of different elements to them, and I will go through those in a moment. But I think this diagram here also epitomizes some of the different elements of the campus, and you can see that there are 3 or 4 different elements. There's the university, there's the individual companies, there's the business of the areas, there's the broader industry, and then there's also society as well. So there's different elements which have been pulled into and help to develop the philosophy as we go forward. Part of it is also about learning on the job, different types of learning and teaching philosophies, different ways of doing. And so not only are we actually just trying to get the students involved in learning in a different way, but almost everything that they do should be thought of as part of their educational experience, their learning experience, to prepare them for the world of work. Just a few examples. We talk about task-based learning or problem-based learning. And of course, that is something that students need to do. It's those soft skills about being able to work in groups. But it's not just that, it's beyond that. It's not just about working in groups within their actual disciplines, but it's also about, and I should just move on, I should come back to this. It's also about looking at the actual structure of the degree programs. Every student, regardless of what they are studying, whatever the degree program, must do a minor in contemporary entrepreneurialism. So every student studies 25% of their credits from years 2, 3, and 4 in entrepreneurialism. Every student must have 600 hours of professional development, and this professional development is split between a number of different ways, a number of different elements. I will go back in a little bit to try and describe all of that. But every student, regardless of the type of degree program, must do some of these common areas. So they start to learn to work together. They start to learn how to interact with people with different skill sets. This slide here gives you an indication of the schools which we have on the campus, but also the degree programs as well. And you can see that we've got students who will be computer people, data science and big data technology, engineers, intelligent robotics, Internet of Things, more business orientated, intelligent supply chain, and also more arts related into, for example, arts, technology and entertainment. These are our initial degree programs. But all of these students will still be working together in terms of the contemporary entrepreneurial elements. Each of the schools has a founding industry partner. That industry partner has a special status. It's part of the school council, or the academy the school councils, and also part of the wider campus council. And they also provide opportunities for work placement, for internship, for mentor, for entrepreneurial ideas. And they also open the doors for other businesses to be able to come and join us as well. So there's a true partnership which is really taking place. I'm aware that it's about 5 to 11, so I shall move quickly on, and I'd like to just sort of pause here for a moment or two to have a quick look at some of the elements of the entrepreneurial education. This, for us, is something which is really exciting, because not only is something that all of our students, as they're studying their degrees, can do, but it's also something that we will work with both through the learning wall, that Shinbi will talk about, but also through industry partners to provide opportunities for their existing staff and people who will work from other universities to come back and upskill as well, and so that they continue to stay relevant in the workplace. And so we're trying to provide as many different types of spaces as possible for students to have an entrepreneurial mindset. We don't for one moment assume that we're going to create lots of entrepreneurs, but what we really hope we'll be doing when we leave is that we will have created an entrepreneurial mindset, so that when people go and work within industries, they have that ability to change, to move, to upskill, to be innovative as they go forward. And hopefully they will go and maybe create their own businesses later as they develop their skills further. And I will finish later on with a slide which shows the types of graduate attributes that we hope everybody will leave the campus with. I'm not going to go into too much detail into the summer program, as I'm aware of time constraints, and I have talked very briefly about research being industry oriented, and this here gives you an idea of the types of areas, the broad themes that the campus is looking at in terms of its research. And you can see that from these broad themes, if I went back to all the different types of schools that we have, any of those schools can fit into these broad themes, as of course can the schools which are currently based on our SIP campus as well. And that's the idea, that we try to be all inclusive, and we're bringing in industry and society into our research environment. Just gives you an idea of some of our partners as we're developing. And of course, if you're based around and in China, these will be recognizable as some really big companies, and this number is growing as well. I mentioned that I would finish with an indication of the graduate attributes that our students would have. And so what we hope, as every student graduates and as we've developed the degree programs, we look at the normal learning outcomes at the program level. But running all the way through here are these 5 different themes. So every graduate, every student, when they finish, is going to be somebody who is a leader. They will have led in their group work. They would have led in some of their PDP, their professional development programs. They would have led in talking to us and helping to develop the degree programs as well. They would have taken risks in some of the things that they were doing. We're setting assignments so that the students are actually taking risks and learning to take risks. University is a really safe place for this risk taking to take place, as opposed to once they've started in the world of business. And part of course, the learning to take risks is to learn how to deal with things which were not successful the first time. They would have developed that entrepreneurial mindset, as I've mentioned. They would have learned how to collaborate with different people, people from different disciplines, people from different groups, different backgrounds, and they will have become innovators as well. They will have become mixers and shakers as well as that, but they will have created and left with these different types of attributes as they then move on either to the world of work or to the next step of their educational career. So in summary, if you like, the whole point of the campus is about employability, the student experience, society and research, and bringing all of those things together. What we think of is 21st century and higher order skills. I shall just leave you with a few pictures of the campus as it's developing. The whole campus is designed to be an entrepreneurial location so that wherever students are, there's the opportunity to feel inspired for innovation and for discussion and to try new ideas and new things. I often say that I look at this, I don't see glass walls. I see things that people can write on. I see places which can act as an inspiration, and that's all of the philosophy behind everything we do. Everything is movable, and you can move from the relaxing location at the bottom where you start to germinate an idea to other space to start to have discussions, and then you move further along until you end up with our incubator and innovation spaces where we will help students in terms of their entrepreneurial ideas and their development. The college is new, but we already have a number of students who are working on business ideas as well as their development of their degree programs as well. This is something that we encourage as much as possible. So I think that just about nicely brings me up to 11 o'clock. Shin is probably hoping I'll go on a bit longer so that he has less time, but I'm not going to fall into that trap. So I don't know whether we're going to take questions now or whether we're going to move further on. I'll leave that up to Sarah, but I'm happy to answer anything that you may have or any questions that you may have at this stage.
Thank you, Stuart. I'm actually thinking, since we all, presenting some aspect of XJTLU, maybe it makes sense to leave the Q&A at the end for everyone, if that's okay.